Hi, and welcome to Wellbeing Conversations with me. I'm Aisha, and today we're exploring a profound and fascinating topic, past lives. So we're going to talk about repeating patterns, about soul lessons, and why we continue to experience certain cycles in our lives until we become aware of them. So, this episode is inspired by my work with Qhht. As a lot of you know, I'm a Qhht practitioner, and Qhht stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this was developed by Dolores Cannon. This podcast today is also incorporating my own experiences working with people through regression, healing, meditation, and consciousness work. And what I've discovered again and again is that we are all so much more than these physical bodies. We are, and you may have heard this so many times, but we are multidimensional beings. We are infinite souls, and we are here having this human experience. And sometimes we just need to remind ourselves of that because we get so involved in living on this planet that we forget we are so much more than these physical bodies. And once we begin to understand this, everything starts to change. And this is why I wanted to have this very important conversation today, because on this planet where we are moving into is very different frequencies, and it's encouraging us to take more seriously our journey of self-mastery. Now, Qhht is a powerful method of past life regression. And as I said, this was developed by Dolores Cannon many decades ago, right? And what makes this technique so unique is that we don't just simply access memories, we also access what Dolores referred to as the subconscious. But this isn't necessarily the subconscious mind spoken about in psychology, it's more the superconscious or the higher self, the oversoul, that higher aspect of ourselves. It's that inner wisdom that exists beyond the personality and beyond the current lifetime. And as I say that, you know what I'm talking about because intuitively, all of us have that inner voice. And during these sessions, people are often able to receive direct answers about their lives from their higher selves. Why certain things happened, why certain patterns repeat, why certain relationships feel so intense, what lessons the soul is learning. And often there's deep healing through this process. Because when we see life from the soul's perspective, our perception begins to shift. And, one of the most profound things people experience during regression work is the deep knowing that consciousness continues, that we are not just this body. The body may come and go, but the soul continues. And, I do actually want to do a separate podcast on death in this reality because, in my work as, a registered nurse for many years, I've obviously been with many people that have passed, that were transitioning. And there's so much to talk about. I feel like in this reality, we've been programmed to fear death and to think of death as so final and to have all these fears of being punished and going to hell that so many people in that moments when they're dying or before they die, they are met with so much fear because of all of this programming and belief systems. And it's not like that at all. And in a way, there's no such thing as death like that. It's more like a transition back into the infinite spark of who you are for a lot of people. So I do really want to talk specifically about that another time because I feel like in this reality we really need to shift our whole perception of death. And I feel like the grieving process and how we process death and all of that will change so much for people. Right? And with past life regression or Qhht, which is not just past lives, many people experience lives from different time periods, cultures, genders, and experiences. And whether someone interprets these literally, symbolically, or spiritually, the healing that occurs can be extraordinary. Because these experiences reveal patterns, right? Patterns of fear, patterns of abandonment, patterns of self-sacrifice, patterns of guilt, of grief, of struggle, of unworthiness, that's a big one, or even powerlessness. And what becomes clear is that the soul continues seeking expansion and understanding through many experiences. This is where things become incredibly powerful. So many people ask, why do I keep attracting the same situations? Or why do I keep repeating the same relationships? Or why do these lessons keep showing up for me? And from the soul perspective, life is not punishing us. Life is teaching us. The soul appears to revisit certain themes until awareness is gained, until healing occurs, until love is chosen. Sometimes the lesson is learning boundaries. Sometimes it's self-worth. Sometimes it's forgiveness. Sometimes learning to trust ourselves. And often the people in our lives are playing sacred roles in that process. So through regression work and through Dolores Cannon's teachings, there appears to be what many call soul families, right? Souls that travel together across many lifetimes. But what's fascinating is that the roles change. So the mother in one life may become the daughter in another. A partner may become a sibling. A different relationship may actually be a soul agreement designed for growth. And when we begin to see life through this lens, something softens inside us. We begin asking things like, what is the situation teaching me? What is my soul learning here? How can I respond differently to this? This perspective can completely transform victim consciousness into soul awareness. And this is not dismissing the pain or the suffering, but to discover meaning within it. And this is really what can shift things for us. One of the greatest themes that emerges through this work is forgiveness. Because when we hold resentment and anger and guilt and shame or grief, we continue carrying that energy. But often these energies continue repeating through lifetimes. And forgiveness frees us. This is why I'm so big on forgiveness. And I've got it's a set of 3 what is it called? It's the forgiveness process, and it's a set of 3 that's actually within my mini meditations. You can have a look for it, and there's part 1, part 2, and part 3 of the forgiveness process. I did that because I see how important it is, this forgiveness process. And not necessarily, this forgiveness, it frees us, but not necessarily because someone else was right, but because we no longer want to carry that burden. You can almost see it like you're holding, when we're not forgiving, no matter what was done to us, it's like we are carrying this big backpack with us around everywhere. And when we forgive, we are forgiving for ourselves so that we can let go of that burden, we can take off that backpack, and we can be free. And that person, whatever was done, it doesn't excuse that. They will still go through their energetic process of what needs to happen for the deeds that they've done, and that would be with themselves and in many different ways. But for you, it's very freeing because you're letting go of all of that so that you can move forward, and this opens up space in your life. Forgiveness is energetic liberation. And the incredible thing is that when we heal something deeply within ourselves, we don't just heal for this moment. We heal in all directions of time. And yes, this concept can make the brain feel like a pretzel when you start thinking about these things. Dolores Cannon often used to say that. You see, the thing is, time is not truly linear, right? There's past, present, and future. but they are all happening simultaneously. We agree upon time in this reality so that we can have this reality, right? But everything is happening simultaneously, and the brain can go into that sort of pretzel when we start thinking about these things. But why I'm talking about this is because when we forgive and when we heal, it means that the healing we do now ripples across consciousness. It affects us, it affects our children, it affects future generations, and perhaps even what we perceive as future lifetimes. And I hear so many people say, I'm not coming back to earth again. I'm done. I've definitely had those moments where I'm like, I'm not coming back here again. It's too much. And honestly, earth can be incredibly intense experience, right? It's quite a dense experience. It's emotional, it's challenging. And many souls, we know when we're coming to earth, we know that it's going to be an intense and very difficult experience because of the density that's on this planet, right? But many spiritual teachings suggest that souls understand, even before incarnating, that Earth offers profound opportunities for growth and evolution. This planet teaches us through contrast, right? Love and loss, joy and pain, fear and awakening. And perhaps humanity is now entering a period of great awakening, a time where we're becoming more conscious, where we can finally begin healing ancient wounds, ancestral patterns, karmic cycles, and limiting beliefs that have repeated for generations. So instead of repeating unconscious cycles, we begin consciously creating, consciously healing, consciously choosing. And through that, we begin shifting the frequency of our lives and perhaps even the collective timeline itself. This is how powerful healing can be. The big invitation here is awareness. To gently step back and observe your life. What patterns keep repeating? What emotions keep resurfacing? What kinds of people keep appearing in your life? And instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Perhaps ask, what is this teaching me? Is life teaching you to love yourself more? Is life teaching you to trust yourself, to honor your energy, perhaps to create boundaries, or to forgive, or to speak your truth? Because once the lesson is integrated, the cycle often begins to dissolve. Awareness changes everything. So just really sit with that. Once that lesson is integrated, the cycle often begins to dissolve. And that is the power of doing that inner work. And I suppose the big message here is you are not broken. You are evolving. Your soul is learning, remembering, expanding. And perhaps the greatest healing occurs when we stop seeing ourselves as victims of life and begin seeing ourselves as conscious participants within a much larger journey of the soul. I think I'm going to leave it here today because we talked about some of the most important topics for us right now in our life, and I really would love you to sit with these words because it has never been more important to know that we are so much more than these physical bodies and that we can shift anything within our reality through that inner work. And the power of opening the mind, the power of expanding your perception of this reality, the power of having awareness at this time. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And if this episode resonated with you, I invite you to do the meditation that accompanies this episode, because it's a gentle journey into the multidimensional self. And it's powerful for healing, for subconscious programming, and for intention setting. I hope you enjoyed it today and have a beautiful day or evening. Bye.